chat. So good morning, everyone, and I've heard good weekends, bad weekends. Let's hear a little bit about. So today we were sort of starting from scratch. Like, what is it that's what's in your thoughts? What's mulling over for you? It's really about what's top of mind that's occupying your thoughts and ideas, and how can we share in that so it can occupy our thoughts and ideas for a little period of time. And Jasper, maybe if we could start with you and just so it's open mic. What are you thinking? What would you like to share? And we'd like to hear from you.
Hi, morning. These open mics are actually far more difficult than to be given a topic, because minds can't operate in a vacuum. So it then forces me to find some direction, and I have actually not given it any thought, Lee, because my week was very much occupied on Sunday, the whole of Sunday, I'm a member of the International Christian Chamber of Commerce, and yesterday we had our annual summit. So normally this event takes place in Israel, and it's then preceded by a couple of days focusing on our ICCC issues, and then also a couple of days where we then collaborate with Israel Chamber of Commerce and all the various institutions in Israel to see how we can strengthen hands as business people in Israel. So it's normally a big event, but then this year with COVID, nobody could travel. And it was as a next thing, so it was history, like this whole year was history on so many aspects for so many people, that you have to get on with the job, and it then force you to do things differently. And it became a one-day event. And then later today, the Israel collaboration connection will take place. So my mind's pretty much busy with that. And so yesterday was more about just the International Christian Chamber of Commerce stuff. And we were over 200 people at on the international call with people from 50 countries participating. And it was actually in some of they had a panel discussion. It was very interesting to see how people went through tough times in preparation, so that when real tough times came, like this year, they were actually prepared. So that was more or less the story, or the testimony of one of the ladies that said about 2 years ago, she felt in her spirit that she can choose left or right. So the left was saying, I'm just paraphrasing her saying, but the left was going to be okay. You will be okay. You'll survive that. But the better one would be to go for the tough one. And the tough one is almost like, losing your job and going through very financially tough times, etc. And she felt, well, let me do what is the right thing for me to do. And she went through the tough one, and she could not have foreseen that this year would have been COVID, and what she had to undergo through in this last 2 years have actually prepared her in all aspects, so that when COVID came, she was actually flying through it, financially and economically. So, so if I have to say I'm deliberating stuff, then it's almost this deliberation of we don't know the future. And our natural thing is to go back to where I was comfortable. So other people would call it my old normal. But old normal for many people just meant that was where I was comfortable and I could cope with it. And now our boat gets disrupted a bit. And our first reaction is to say, I want to go back to my old normal. Is there another way back? And then they spend all their energy into that other way back. And this morning, just prior to this, I was also reading Peter Diamandis's thing about, you call it the moonshot mindset, where he basically says it's instead of thinking I want to improve 10%, he talks about improve 10 times, which is 100% improvement. He said, but because if you focus on improving 10% in whatever venture you are competing with the masses and you're going to lose that game. But if you go for the 100% improvement or the impossible improvement, it forces you to come up with crazy ideas that other people would not have thought about. And everything that today is considered a breakthrough was considered crazy just a couple of months before it became the breakthrough idea. So I think so my mind's all over the place, but it's probably a mixture of this to be perfectly aligned for what is meant for me and what is my mandate, but within that to critically ask myself, am I thinking small, just a few percent improvement, or am I thinking crazy? And what can be this crazy for each of the things? So I'll leave you at that.
So Jasper, thank you so much for not thinking about this topic. So, somehow you've ended up having some amazing thinking and sharing and contributing richly to just us mulling over some great ideas. So thank you. Trevor, what do you want to throw into the hat? Literally.
Well, first of all, I want to find myself, where's the button to connect here? I think, in fact, I had this, I was going to put it in here. What Jasper stimulated in my mind is that just yesterday I was thinking, thank goodness we've got a period where we can actually go and disappear. And I was quite jealous of Ivan and the pictures that he sent, because my mind operates best in a vacuum. So I'm completely the other end of the scale to Jasper. I prefer just to be sitting up, blankly staring at the sky, and then I get massive ideas. I mean, a Christmas break going away is just very exciting. So that ties into a couple of other things that I was thinking about in terms of your open mic and what to talk about. And I just thought 2021, that's what's occupying my mind. And where do I want to spend my time? And really where I want to spend my time, and it's thanks to you, Lee. I think what we've done, and if I go back to this, I mean, Peter Diamandis and 10x, and Jasper, you got it completely wrong. 10x is not just about 100%. 10x is about 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, and you're going to have to go back to your maths class or ask Ed what that works out to in terms of an exponential answer at the end of the day. It's way more than that. And I think we've even got to put down even greater ideas. And what Lee did for me this year was to take our wisdom's thinking, which was all in the minds of a couple of us and the inputs that we were doing, and she put it into Wisdom's 1 to 3. I mean, the bulk of wisdoms123.com is very much Lee and her family's work in that she put it together. And I think we made huge steps. And I actually put that into Facebook on the Chamber site, the steps that we actually took. And if you think about it, the day before lockdown, we moved to Wisdom's Chats. That Wisdom's Chats got a group of people together. I think, Vinay, you might have been there, or even at that meeting or around. And those people turned around and said, gee, we love this idea on Zoom. We locked down at home. Now, how can we start utilizing this? And that became the virtual trade fair, Africa. And then from virtualtradefair.africa, we turned around and said, well, let's do the Wisdom's Global Summit. That Wisdom's Global Summit then brought in, and I think the virtualtradefair.africa, we had about 4 days of Zoom networking, which I maintain is still a world record. Of working through on Zoom, and we met with fantastic people. And I think we met with people like Brock and Mark Jarrett and Doyle Bueller and John Attridge. And right now, we're now working on the 17th of December, the 24-hour non-stop small business networking with BBX, which has got over 80,000 odd companies out there. And keep the story going. You see, my mind works in a vacuum. I get excited about all these things. From that global summit, we then went to virtualtradefair.global because we said we must keep that momentum going. And then from there, I think out of virtualtradefair.global, which was in September, Ivan started working on the virtual mall because that was an idea that came from Jasper and Gavin. And that started growing. And out of that virtual mall, John Attridge turned around and said, but you Wisdoms guys started all this. Can you help us to launch this 24-hour event to our 80,000 odd companies? And Ivan said, yes, that was a big problem for him because he was then committed. And then I think something else happened. Oh, we did the Wisdom's UK Summit. And in that summit, again, it opened our eyes to what it is that we're actually doing here for 2021. We're taking people like ourselves, ordinary people, and doing extraordinary things at a 10x, miscalculation by Jasper, to a 20x level, exponential, seeing how we can make a difference in the lives of millions of people. And that takes me right back to what was it that Lee did to actually get us excited. Lee actually took our metaphor of let's see how we can take what we're doing in the corporate environment, which Lee drives most of the time, as a high value, high price item, and get that out to over 1 million people at just $1 a month. We did it. Well, Lee did it, and we put our names behind it, Ivan and we. So I ask myself, what is it that I'm going to do in 2021? Well, I'm so excited with the progress that we have done just in announcing those things. My focus is purely 2021 is how do we take that and 20x again? Because I believed we probably haven't hit 20x, but we've done a lot more than most other people that I've watched around have actually done during this time period. So I'm excited about that. And there another thought that came across my mind, and so you'll see I had a vacuum day yesterday because a couple of thoughts came across my mind. So here's a second one. Vinay, stop laughing at me. I can see that. I'd like you to switch off your visual so I can concentrate. And the other thought was 2021. My thoughts for myself, all of my family is I think the next year to 5 years to 10 years is focused on one thing: maximize your upside, minimize your downside. I think if you are not protecting your downside just in a big way, you're going to make a big mistake here. Get yourself out of debt. It's a mantra that we've been talking about all the time, but I think it is such a sensitive level now that we've got to focus on how to maximize on your upside. And that little story that I talked of, our development over 2020, is about maximizing your upside. And then the last thing I thought about is, who can I rely on? And at the end of the day, I've got fantastic partners, as you know. Ivan and Lee, what they do is fantastic. What Jasper is actually doing. There are other people that I've met along the lines, like Vinay and Ed and this sort. So maybe they'll turn up and pitch up to be fantastic partners. But the point I want to get to is, I'm very much a thinker along the lines of, and it was probably Zig Ziglar who said this: if it's got to be, it's up to me. And that at all times, as much as you've got fantastic partners, we've got to be in control of our own lives and making certain that we are providing our own self-motivation, which then, so I suppose it's part of this concept that I have of respect yourself, because by doing that, you respect others even more. And that's why perhaps I respect Lee and Ivan and the Jaspers and the Vernays and the Eds and everyone else that is getting together. But how do we get more of ourselves to actually get as excited as I am about the future in 2021? So that was my 30 seconds.
It's a good thing these things are recorded, because I mean, there's your motivational talk for 2021.
My motivational self-talk.
Just going to create a little clip from that and send it out into the universe, and people will be galvanized into action for 2021. Thanks, Trevor. Vernay, what's been going around in your mind? And vacuum or no vacuum? Well, you know, where's your thinking?
Well, I'm also in the beautiful mountains like Ivan, so I've had a chance to sit and stare at the mountains every morning and watch the sunrise and watch the sun go down, and it's very beautiful, and it sort of calms one's mind down. You sort of slow down and think what is actually important, as opposed to running from one thing to the next. You actually just taking a really deep breath and saying, all right, now let me just think about it before I just carry on doing the same thing over and over again. And this period is basically for me to regroup my business, see what I've learned during 2020, and decide what I'm going to do in 2021. Select those things that have been successful, and sort of along the lines of, you know, minimizing your downside and maximizing your upside. Try and eliminate everything that is wasting my time, that is where I am wasting my own time, and maximize my energy levels and my mind into where I can actually focus. That's not only going to bring me money, but also bring me the most satisfaction. I'm not purely profit driven like Trevor. I want to be satisfied with what I'm doing. I want to be impressed by where I go in 2021. By the end of 2021, I want to look back and say I actually achieved something. Not only do I have $100,000 in my account, but I actually personally achieved something. And I'm looking for that personal growth. Now, I can't say I've come to big conclusions about where I'm going to do and where I'm going to do things, what I'm going to do, and it might involve some really big life changes, like moving down to Clarence, and I can spend all my days thinking. But so I haven't reached conclusions. I'm going to take 3 weeks to actually give it a lot of thought. My mind processes things slowly and carefully, and I want to get to that balance of money versus happiness, self-satisfaction. I think those are the two things. So yeah, that's where my mind is. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Renee. I think those are such good questions and such good thinking, and to be at the end of a year and looking into the new year and saying, okay, what is it that I want at the end of 2021? You can't say 2021 very quickly. So I think it's good to be thinking in that direction, and it's also sort of stimulating me to think, okay, what is it that I need to start thinking about for next year? I must admit, I'm so wrapped up in 2020 still that it's hard for me to get out from underneath here before I can start looking there. So, but it's good to be lifting your eyes. It's literally lifting your eyes to see ahead. I think that's amazing. Edward, that leaves you. What's been going around in your thinking?
Yeah, well, first of all, Lee, thank you for making me feel so good about myself, because when Ivan sent those photographs through, I didn't feel annoyed. I just felt happy that someone else was enjoying the sort of things that I enjoy. So I felt really happy for him. I had a very busy weekend because weekends are my virtual writing retreat. So I do most of my writing at the weekend. And on Saturday, I sent my book off to a publisher. So I feel as though I've finished that part of the sort of writing my story, and now I can move on to the more creative side. In fact, I started a second novel, not having finished the first yet, but so I can work on both at the same time. But I did have a little thought, and I'm going to change direction completely from what everyone else has said, because I would continue to think about the paradox. And I thought about perfect imperfections. And that's a phrase that has become more popular because of a song by a guy called, I forget his name now, John Legend, All of Me. And I've also used it as a hook in one of the stories in my book of micro stories. And it's about, there was a friend I've got who always gets sayings wrong. She mixes the sayings up. And I love her for it because they always come out quite nice. And she's got a little sort of slight bend to her nose, which I think makes her look really sexy. And then I was thinking about when I was in Scotland, one day I was walking along a valley with these big sort of valley sides covered in bracken. So it's all sort of brown. And poking through the bracken was a rock. And on that rock, in a little tiny crevice, a tree had started to grow. And of course, because it was very low on nutrients, it was quite stunted. Because of the wind, it was bent and twisted. And it was the most beautiful tree I've ever seen. And it was the imperfections that made it beautiful. But then I thought about my phone. And if there was an imperfection on that, it would annoy me. So I kind of thought, that's interesting, isn't it? That some imperfections you like my friend's nose, and some imperfections like a crack on the glass on your phone would really annoy you. And then I thought about people. And I don't know whether you guys have picked up on the trial that have been going on in the UK with Johnny Depp, who a newspaper accused him of beating his wife, and he sued them for libel, and the judge found that he had beaten his wife. Now, he's got a contract with Dior to publicise their aftershave, and they've maintained his contract after the verdict. And in fact, sales of the aftershave that he promotes have gone up since he's been accused of being a wife beater. And you think, well, that would have destroyed the career of a UK politician. So there's an imperfection that some people, not me, aren't bothered about. And then you think perhaps about Nelson Mandela, a much loved and respected person, but he didn't have a perfect past. So I then started wondering, well, what is it that we're prepared to accept some flaws and not others? And how much of a flaw does a person have to have before they lose our respect, lose our love, lose our friendship? Where is that balance between good and evil? So how flawed do you have to be before someone doesn't respect you? So that's just my thoughts around perfect imperfections.
Thanks, Edward. You always give us such huge food for thought. So and such beautiful stories that go with it, so that we can literally picture picture the tree, picture your friend and who knows, and also the concept, you know, so thank you for that. It's interesting in terms of my own thinking. I sort of bridged the two more or less themes. The one is this idea of scale, and so from a business perspective, just wondering, what does scale mean? I attended, because I'm working on the Women Entrepreneurship Program. I'm helping write and develop an online program for women entrepreneurs in Africa for the Grusha Michelle Trust. So I was able to attend their graduation of their previous cohort, which they did virtually this year. And so it was a virtual graduation, and I just was able just to listen in and listen to the address by Grusha Michelle. And what an incredible woman. I mean, she wasn't anything but herself, but she was utterly inspiring and passionate. And her point about this program, she said, women entrepreneurs make up 60 to 70% of entrepreneurs in Africa. So yeah, the vast majority of entrepreneurs in Africa are women. However, they almost all remain SMMEs, small and medium enterprises, and very few become big businesses. And her point is, we have to scale. We can't play small. And so the point of this program is not for startups. In order to enter the program, you have to be in business for at least 2 years. And I think you have to have a minimum of a $10,000 turnover. That's the minimum. I think they go up to several $100,000 dollar turnover. But the whole point of the course is to say, okay, no matter where you are, whether you're small, how are you going to get to medium? And if you're medium, how are you going to get to big? And the reason for that, she said, yes, it's to get wealth. The course is called Women Creating Wealth. And she said, yes, I want you to be wealthy. You deserve to be wealthy. You should have a lot of money. But with wealth and with the size of the business comes influence. And influence is really the point that she's trying to make, is to have a positive influence in communities. And it's been proven that when women, and I don't want to make this a male-female thing, but it certainly was emphasized in her address, that women controlling wealth contribute more to community development. And so that's her hope for Africa, is to empower. Yes, absolutely, Trevor. Absolutely, us women must stick together. Yeah, so it definitely was inspiring and motivating, and it made me think more and more about, how do I, Renee, you spoke about lifting your eyes. Well, I interpreted it as lifting your eyes like to the mountains, like where, and thinking, instead of this, just going from step to step to step. And, I really appreciate what Trevor was saying about making things happen. So you make the things happen, but actually you have to then take it from there. You have to make that a platform to be able to scale it and to reach and to 20x it. So that's definitely been occupying my thoughts. But Edward, it's interesting, my family yesterday got together. I've got 2 daughters, 29 and 27. And without me really prompting it, we got onto the subject of paradoxes. And we were just talking about life's paradoxes around the paradox of vision and action. That we need time to think, we need to have a vision, we need to know where we're going, but the vision without the action doesn't make any difference. You know, it's just a dream or a wish. And action without the vision is just us doing the hamster wheel stuff. We spoke about the paradox of honesty and love, and how honest are you in love? Is it loving to be honest? How much honesty can love take? So there really were we had some great discussions around those kinds of paradoxes. So that's I sort of bringing these two ideas together, which I guess is a paradox in itself. So where do we go to for tomorrow? Any ideas from the group? Is there anything that's struck you or that you would like to pick up as a topic for tomorrow? Just put your hand up and share. Yeah, go for it, Edward.
It was something that Trevor said about extraordinary and ordinary. And I just wondered whether we could explore what makes the extraordinary and what makes the ordinary. In fact, when I was in partnership with my friend Philip, we called ourselves extraordinary ordinary runners, because we are ordinary people that did extraordinary things, but we're extraordinary ordinary because we were like everyone else. So everyone else could do what we did. So I'd like to explore what makes the extraordinary, or something around that, if that's okay with everyone else.
Yeah, I'm game. I think that's amazing. I love that topic. So because I think it combines both of the ideas that we're talking about. Is, what does it take to play big, but what is it? There's also this paradox about the ordinary and the extraordinary. So I love it. Thank you. That's the topic for tomorrow. Thanks, Edward. And so we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Have a great day, everyone.